It's quite obvious that the Sony heads don't want to take the blame for the massive failure that is Madam Web, Kraven the Hunter, and as well as Mobius. The guy at the top, the Sony CEO executive, has decided to speak with the media, and he has laid blame to the fact that the media made these two projects flop badly, and at the same time, saying that Craven and Madam Web were not bad films. he's quite delusional if he's saying this, because look, I have watched Craven. I watched Craven about 5 6 days back. And I will say this: I enjoyed Craven. On my rating scale, I gave Craven 6.5 out of 10. I enjoyed the film. It was an okay film. I'm a fan of Aaron Taylor Johnson. But you see, Madam Web and Mobius, those are at least big old pile of trash. Those are two pile of trash movies that should never have been made to begin with. Even Mobius was even fun to an extent, but not a good film in every look. If you look at the film and what it could have been, Mobius was quite bad, but it's a lot better than Madam Web. So I don't understand where he's getting the idea that these projects that fail so badly at the box office were not bad. Or at least were not badly made in general. And he was saying this, speaking with the LA Times, where the Sony CEO, Sony Pictures CEO, Tony Vincent Cura, that's his name, Tony Vincent Cura, he says that he doesn't understand why Craven flopped. He says this: we have had mostly very good results. Unfortunately, Kraven the Hunter that we launched last weekend and my last film launch is probably the worst launch we've had in over 7.5 years. So that didn't work out very well, which I still don't understand because the film is not a bad film. And this is what he says. Now, regarding Madame Web, which is one of the worst comic book movies of all time, Tony Vincent Cura says that Madame Web was not a bad film. Oh my goodness. If Madame Web was not a bad film, what do you then describe as a bad film in Hollywood these days? A film made for feminists, a film made for activists, a film made to literally insult the male audience. You say it's not a bad film. What do you expect a bad film to be like? Let me go over what he's saying. He says that it was not a bad film. And he says this. Let's just touch on Madam Web for a moment. Madam Web underperformed in theaters because the press just crucified it, and it was not a bad film, and it did great on Netflix. Now he goes on to destroy critics in the press, and he continued blaming the press. Tony Vincent Cura says the press gave the films, at least these two films, bad reviews intentionally because they didn't want them to be made. And he says this: for some reason, the press decided that they didn't want to make us they didn't want us making these films out of Craven and Madam Web, and the critics just destroyed them. They also did it with Venom, but the audience loved Venom and made Venom a massive hit. These are not terrible films. They were just destroyed by critics in the press for some reason. Um, Now, to be fair on him, the Venom films have been largely successful. The franchise in its own is well over $1.5 billion in revenue. So the Venom trilogy was quite a success for the studio. But remember, there was a massive decline from film to film in terms of box office number. The first one made over $860 million. The second one made about $500+ million, while the third one has struggled to get over $480 million. So there's a huge decline in the Venom franchise. It's not like a franchise where you get the first one, make some money, and the second one topples it and makes more money, and then the third one is kind of like the piece de la resistance, and you get more money from that. But the reality is that the projects they've released, these three projects, Madam Web starring Dakota Johnson, Sydney Sweeney is there as well, and then you have Aaron Taylor Johnson as the main star in Kraven the Hunter, and then you have Morbius. These films have failed for Sony, and this has to do with some production issues and how they went about making these films. It has nothing to do with only the critics destroying it. Now, to be fair, I've said this, I enjoyed Kraven. Out of the two, at least the three films, and which includes Morbius, Madam Web, and then Kraven, I enjoyed Kraven the most. Morbius is slightly fun in some areas, but it's a very bad film. Madam Web was a feminist pile of trash. That's just me saying this, to be fair. But other than that, if you guys have any opinion about what the Sony CEO has said about these projects, please drop that in the comment section. Let's have a discussion. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys very much next time.